It started with a phone call. I was folding laundry, nothing special, just a quiet Tuesday afternoon, when the phone rang. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, answered, and heard the sound of my daughter crying. "Mom. I can't do this alone. I need help." She was pregnant. Alone. And scared. In that moment, I didn't hesitate. I told her to come home. That we'd figure it out. Because that's what mothers do, right? We show up. Even when the road is foggy. Even when we're tired. By the end of that week, I had turned the guest room into a nursery. Painted the walls a soft mint green, sewed little clouds onto white curtains, and placed a rocking chair in the corner where sunlight pooled in the mornings. I found a used crib online, fixed it up with new screws and a coat of love. I was 60 and single, my back ached every time I bent down, but I felt needed again. And that feeling, it kept me going. When she arrived with her belly full and her eyes swollen from crying, I hugged her. I made her tea. I told her to rest, that I had everything under control. That night, I lay awake thinking about the tiny baby I would soon meet. A part of her. A new chance at family. She gave birth to a boy. Nathan. He was perfect. His little fingers curled around mine like he knew me already. I was the first to hold him when she was too tired. I changed his first diaper. I sang to him when the nurses stepped out. I didn't mind staying overnight at the hospital, even though the chair was hard and my knees stiffened up. He was worth every ache. Back home, the days turned into a rhythm. Bottles every 3 hours. Burping, diaper changes, lullabies, late-night walks down the hallway with him pressed against my chest. My daughter slept most mornings. She said she needed to recover. I understood. At first, it felt like a beautiful routine. I didn't mind missing my book club, skipping lunches with old friends. I was doing something sacred, caring for my daughter and her child. But weeks turned into months. I noticed she stopped waking up even when he cried. She started going out again, just an hour at first, then 2, then overnight. Always with a, "Thanks, Mom," tossed over her shoulder. I tried to ask gently if she needed help, if she was okay, if this was postpartum. But she waved it off. "You're just better with him than I am," she said once, laughing, as if parenting was some quirky hobby I excelled at. My back pain worsened. I started getting dizzy from waking every few hours. I tried to rest during the day, but the house was always a mess. Dishes, toys, bottles, laundry. It never ended. And through it all, Nathan smiled. His gummy grin made everything feel okay, even when my arms trembled from exhaustion. Sometimes, I caught myself watching the front door. Waiting for her to return. Hoping she'd come in, say, "Let me take over, Mom, and let me lie down." It never happened. One afternoon, I stood by the sink, washing bottles. She breezed in wearing new heels, holding a shopping bag. "You wouldn't believe the sale at the mall," she said, grinning. I stared at her. My shirt was stained with spit up. My hair unbrushed. I hadn't sat down all day. "Did you find time to grab formula?" I asked. She blinked. "I thought we still had some." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded and wiped my hands. That night, I drove to the store, alone, and bought the formula myself. That was the first night I asked myself, is this what my retirement looks like? I had dreams once. Small ones. A garden. A road trip across Route 66. Maybe a watercolor class. Nothing grand. But all of it seemed so far away now, buried under bottles and tantrums and a daughter who no longer saw me as her mother, but as, what? A live-in nanny? Still, I kept going. For Nathan. Because when he looked at me, I felt like someone again. Someone he trusted. Someone who mattered. I didn't know then that love, without boundaries, can become a cage. And that sometimes, the people you sacrifice everything for, are the first to forget what you gave up for them. By the time Nathan turned 2, I could count the number of nights I'd slept a full 8 hours on one hand. I began to move slower. My knees ached more. I forgot what silence sounded like. My friends stopped calling. Not because they didn't care, but because every conversation ended with, "Sorry, I have to go, Nathan's crying." I never meant for this to become my whole life. But somewhere along the way, my name disappeared. I wasn't Mary anymore. I was just Mom or Grandma, depending on who was yelling. One morning, I asked my daughter if I could take a weekend to visit my sister in Arizona. Just 2 days. Just enough to remember who I was. She didn't even look up from her phone. "And who's going to take care of Nathan?" I said, gently, "You are." She scoffed. "You're really going to abandon us for a weekend? You always said family comes first." It felt like being slapped. I swallowed the hurt, nodded, and went to make breakfast. That night, I cried quietly in the laundry room, sitting on the cold floor between baskets of tiny socks and wrinkled onesies. I tried again a week later, this time suggesting she hire a sitter so I could go to a watercolor class. Her reply was sharp, "If you have energy to paint, you have energy to help." I stopped asking. The real breaking point came on a Tuesday. She was running late for work. I was holding Nathan, who was having a full-blown meltdown. I asked her to grab his favorite stuffed bunny from the car. She snapped. "Do it yourself, Mom. If you can't even handle mornings, maybe you shouldn't be here." I stood there, stunned. She stormed out. Hours later, when she returned, I tried to talk to her. "I think it might be time for me to start planning for retirement. Maybe get a little apartment of my own." She looked at me like I had just confessed to a crime. "You want to leave me? After everything I've let you be part of? Wow. You're selfish, Mom. Really selfish." Then she picked up my purse, tossed it on the floor, and said with cold finality, "If you're not going to help, then maybe don't stay here anymore." That night, I left. I packed only what I could carry. The rest of my things, I don't know what she did with them. I slept in my car, in a church parking lot, surrounded by the echoes of lullabies and the scent of old baby powder lingering in my bag. I stared at the ceiling, remembering every bottle I warmed, every diaper I changed, every night I stayed up rocking him. Now all I wanted was a place to cry where no one could see me. Mornings were the worst. Not because of the cold, or the aching spine from sleeping in the driver's seat, but because of the silence. At home, silence was a blessing. Here, it was a reminder of everything I lost. I kept a small duffel bag in the back seat. It had essentials, a toothbrush, deodorant, a hairbrush, and Nathan's old blanket. I didn't pack it to remember him, it just ended up there during the chaos. But now, on cold nights, I'd press it to my face and smell the faint trace of baby formula and powder. I hated how comforting it still was. Some nights I slept in Walmart parking lots. Other times, in church lots or quiet cul-de-sacs. I chose places with light, less crime, I hoped. I started journaling in a tattered notebook. Writing helped. I didn't write poetry or prayers. Just moments. Nathan said, "Baba," today. I smiled like it was my own child speaking. She left again without saying thank you. My hips hurt more today. Might be the cold. One morning, I walked into a coffee shop to clean up. I bought the smallest cup on the menu, just for access to the restroom. When I came out, an older woman smiled at me. "You okay, hon?" I almost cried right there. Because no one had asked me that in weeks. Turns out, her name was Martha. She volunteered at a local food pantry and offered to take me there. I hesitated, my pride had taken so many hits, I barely recognized it anymore. But hunger is louder than shame. I went. The pantry led to a temporary shelter. The shelter led to a low-income housing assistance office. And one day, I found myself standing in front of a tiny studio apartment, nothing fancy, just 4 walls, a window, and a stove that barely worked. But it was mine. I cried on the floor the first night. Not because I was sad, but because I hadn't felt ownership in years. I started working part-time at a nearby senior center, teaching crafts. They loved my knitting. I started hosting small watercolor sessions for free. It didn't pay much, but it gave me back pieces of myself. Then, one afternoon, I saw a post online. It was a photo. Nathan's 3rd birthday party. Balloons. Cake. My daughter's smiling friends. But no sign of me. No mention. Not even a comment. That night, I held the old baby blanket and whispered, "Happy birthday, sweet boy. I hope someone held you like I used to." The next morning, I woke up and made myself pancakes. I added chocolate chips. I sat by the window, sunlight touching my feet. I didn't cry. I didn't ache. I just was. It was the first day in years I felt free. That old scent of formula still lingered in my bag. But it no longer made me weep. It reminded me of love. And love, I realized, didn't mean staying somewhere you were treated like a burden. It meant choosing peace. Even if that peace was found in solitude. Spring came softly. The chill in the air lifted, and I started opening the one window in my apartment to let the breeze in. I planted a few herbs on the sill, basil, mint, lavender. The smell of something growing felt like therapy. I was slowly becoming myself again. Or maybe I was someone new altogether. One Thursday morning, as I was laying out yarn for the seniors' knitting class, my phone buzzed. A number I hadn't saved, but still recognized. It was her. "Hey," the voice said. Flat. Hesitant. "So. I heard from Aunt Jo you're in town again. Nathan asks about you sometimes." My heart did a strange thing. Folded, twisted. And yet, I stood still. "He's 4 now. Starting school soon. I just thought you might want to come by." I breathed in. Slowly. And then answered, "Thanks for letting me know. I'll think about it." Because I had learned. Love doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Especially not to people who only remember your worth when they need something. Weeks passed. Then, one afternoon, I opened the door to find them standing outside, my daughter, holding Nathan's hand. He looked up at me and grinned. "Grandma." And I let myself hug him. I didn't invite them in. But I walked with him to the park, just the 2 of us. We fed ducks. He told me about his favorite cartoon. And when he asked, "Why don't you live with us anymore?" I told him the truth. Because sometimes, even grown-ups have to take care of themselves. He nodded, solemnly. Like he understood something bigger than words. When we walked back, my daughter stood waiting, arms crossed. "You could come back, you know. We could use you." I met her eyes. "I know you could. But I'm not available." Her expression hardened. But I saw it, just for a flicker, shame. She left without arguing. That night, I made myself a real dinner. Pasta with garlic and butter. I poured a glass of wine. Lit a candle. Sat by the window and watched the sky darken. I had no riches, no partner, no family dinners. But I had peace. Weeks turned into months. I started selling my crafts at local fairs. One day, I even gave a talk at the library, Rediscovering Yourself After 60. I framed a photo of Nathan and placed it on the small bookshelf near the window. Not to dwell. But to remember the good. The love. The parts that were mine and no one could take. Sometimes he sends me little drawings through his teacher. Sometimes, he doesn't. And that's okay. Because now, I wake up in a place where no one yells, no one slams doors, no one demands I forget myself. This space? It belongs to the woman who built it. And for the first time in a long, long while, that woman is me.